G'day everybody, it's Dave from Wing Chun Mind Force. I'm here today in a gorgeous park on a gorgeous afternoon in my little country town. And my theme for this little bus talk, even though I haven't got my bus today, is an incredible song called the original Red Boat Song, which I got from the website Internal Kung Fu, Internal Wing Chun. Anyway, I'll post a link below so you can go and have a look at it. These are apparently words from an original song that must have been sung by the Wing Chun guys back in the past. And it's the most amazing, spot-on, deeply insightful poem I've ever struck about Wing Chun. And there's actually a lot of really profound stuff in here. So I've been wanting to talk about this for ages, actually. And some of it I'd forgotten where I'd got it from, and I just realised I'd got it from this poem. So I'm just going to go through the poem and tell you my thoughts on it. Okay, so here we go. The techniques of Wing Chun Kwoon are unique. The methods are impenetrable. Changing them should be avoided. Correct teaching, correct practice, and the correct mindset are essential. You must train your heart to be courageous. So simply put, they're just saying there's no need to change Wing Chun. You've got to get the right teaching, the correct teaching. You've got to practice correctly and have the practice mindset. You know, the Nim Dao, Yi Sik, all those things I talk about. They're essential, but Wing Chun doesn't need to be changed. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who do change it. Supposedly to make it street smart for the 21st century, to make up for its weaknesses. But personally, I haven't found the weaknesses, and if you can tell me any weaknesses, I'll be glad to address what I think about that, whether I think it's a weakness or not. But I've found a solution to any possible martial art problem, to tell the truth, in Wing Chun. So listen to the elders. Relaxing and smiling whilst defeating the opponent makes for great tales. Seeking by the questioning hand to judge the foe's situation. It is like watching flowers when he is further away, striking when he is near. Let him fly like a dragon and hop like a tiger. While I am at ease and entertained, the hands strike like a falling star. Okay, so relaxing and smiling while defeating the opponent makes for great tales. That's a cool one, you know, that's the right attitude for a Wing Chun person. This art is so powerful that you can feel sorry for somebody who attacks you, really. And you shouldn't be fighting unless it's absolutely forced on you. And in that situation, you know, you can just relax and use all your power because they've asked for it. Seeking the questioning hand to judge the foe's situation. Pretty much, to me, that the questioning hand, I think, is one way of saying Tan Sao. But I judge it by, you know, when you feel somebody, if you know what you're doing in Wing Chun, when somebody touches you, especially in Chi Sao, you immediately feel whether they're using muscle or whether they're soft. So if I feel softness, I think, oh, this person's pretty advanced. If I feel pushing and strength on me, I think, oh, this is a beginner, or this is somebody who's down the wrong path. And as soon as I feel that, they're a goner, because what we do is we just suck in that strength, that tension, whatever they've got. But that's the questioning hand, sort of questions where the other person's at. And I like this, you know, let him fly like a dragon, hop like a tiger, while I'm at ease and entertained. So that's referring to all the flowery forms of Kung Fu you see, the fancy things that people do that really don't have any particular use. They just look supposedly intimidating. You know, watch any old Kung Fu movie, it's absolutely chockers full of that sort of stuff. Useless moves. This is a great one. The hands strike like a falling star. Now, isn't that perfect? Like, You can't think of much more powerful than a chunk of rock coming into the Earth's atmosphere at 17,000 miles an hour, 20,000 kilometers an hour. Absolutely pure, just straight in, no thinking, no reflecting, pure power. The kick is formless like a flying arrow. Now that's beautiful too, formless. It's just a kick, just a natural thing like a horse kicking or any animal kicks powerfully because they don't think about it, and it just comes instinctively to them, and it comes from that place of mind force. That's what they use without knowing they use it. And the thing is, the flying arrow is a bit of a saying in Kung Fu. I've come across, even in Japanese arts, they talk about that, like releasing the bow. So once you let go of that string, the bow does everything. The bow hasn't got a mind. It just pumps that arrow out, and there's nothing holding it back, no hesitation. Above, remain on the center line. Below, close the groin, ensuring the body is inaccessible. That's pretty obvious, Stick on the center line. When you're Chi Sao, when you're doing anything, all the forms in Wing Chun, you find you're always guarding your center line and moving your mass. You're letting your body do the movements, and there's very little movement, and it's right on the center line with the arms. So you're always sort of guarding the center line. And close the groin means essentially when you go into the attack, even though we have that front-on stance, we're not defenseless because we kick into the center line and we get in their way. And if they want to throw a kick at us, we're already coming down the shortest route, down the center, and our legs are guarding our center. And that's also, even with a hook, our knee, the shin and the foot is hooking, but the knee and the upper leg crosses the center line or gets in the center line and gets in their way. The next line, the key is sticking to the bridge of the enemy. Once again, brilliant. That's why we do sticking hands. It's not called sparring hands, trapping hands, mucking around hands, trying to find a hole hands. It's sticking hands. So the key is sticking to the bridge of the enemy. Once you stick to him, don't unstick. And the only time you unstick is when that hole opens and you sort of virtually subconsciously strike it. I've talked about this before. I won't go into it right now. I'm going to make a series on Chi Sao that'll explain further. Exalted awareness controls his advance. The skill is to borrow force and strike forcefully. Lead him into emptiness. To strike first has its reasons. In the encounter is embedded the mystery. So exalted awareness controls his advance. I assume that's talking about us, that our awareness is absolute, we're right on, and we're sort of feeling his range and feeling what he's doing, or they are doing. The skill is to borrow force and strike forcefully. Now, this is also a hidden secret of Chi Sao. It's what the training of Chi Sao is about, that we take their force in. That's the first thing you should be doing. You don't push out, you don't try to strike out, you don't resist them, you borrow their force. It's a way of saying you take them in, let them flow in like water into your center, which is the ocean. It's your mass. So we borrow the force, and then we strike forcefully. And the way it happens is that it's always a circle. It's always a cycle in Wing Chun. One's force is coming like this, the other's coming back. It's always circular, even though it's on a straight line usually, but we take their force in and then we empty our conscious mind out of our arms, and we're in our body, and we're in the Nim Dao, we're sort of locused in that mind, and you might feel that you're outside of your body or whatever, but the other force, the attacking force, it grows. As the more they give you, the more you take in, the more you can feel it going back. But it's not a push, it's sort of a metal, it's like a sprung trap, or it is like a bow being drawn. The more they push in, the more the bow's drawn, and then as soon as they make a mistake, get out of your way, try to break, especially if they break contact. That's what people do. They don't like getting stuck to. They try to get away. As soon as they get away, it usually goes straight in like a arrow being released. In the encounter is embedded the mystery. I assume that this is talking about the way the mind force fights for you. Now, this is a high level of thing, but really I've been told that Qigong talked about this, that once you can develop mind force, you'll find that it works for you. And I sort of think of it as a creative thing. Like, real creativity is not pre-planned. It's like sudden inspiration, enlightenment. The creative idea comes all at once, and I'm sure that that's what happens in fighting when you're well trained, that what to do just comes to you as like Zen inspiration, like enlightenment. So that's what that's worth. That's what I think. Do not stop at a single strike. Pressuring the opponent continuously is essential. Yeah, that's very Wing Chun. When we go in the attack, that's why I say to people, we don't spar, because sparring seems to indicate you sort of attack, step back, tap, step back. Sort of a to and fro thing, whereas really we don't do that in Wing Chun, because we can strike hard from an inch or less. There's no reason to get back to give us room to throw a big punch or a big kick. We can do it close in, so we just stick to them and we keep hammering them. We don't jump away, because then we sort of give away a real advantage being on them and sticking to them. Most other people don't know how to do what we do, so you stick to them. And pressuring the opponent continuously is essential. Go on top of the incoming bridge. Neutralize the incoming elbow with an elbow. So go on top of the incoming bridge means that gives you an advantage. If you can get on top of his arms, then it's much easier, obviously, to apply your full body weight. You just drop it into him and crush him. You can do it from underneath, but if you're coming in on top of the bridge, then you just sweep him out of the way. And it's what Qigong called cutting bean curd. They've got their bridges, their guard, their punches that they're coming in with. You just go straight through it, come on top of the bridge, crush the bridge. Right, next is the elbow. Neutralize the incoming elbow with an elbow. So that's pretty obvious. A lot of this stuff you'd have to sort of play with a partner, but if he's elbowing you, they're saying, elbow him back, and that's a part of our system is you punch a punch, you kick a kick, elbow an elbow. People often think, well, what do I do if he does this, that, and the other? Well, he kicks at you, just kick his kick. Obviously, strike him in the nuts, kick him in the guts, kick him in the chin, whatever you're capable of. But if he's doing a big sweeping hook and it catches you a little bit off guard, bang, kick his leg, break his leg, smash his knee. In a fair dinkum fight, you just hook in, you want to damage the other person so they stop fighting. Can be the difference between life and death. Okay, close into long range strikes, move the stance forward to an incoming stance. So don't stand back and wait for him. When you see he's going to go for it, slip in, and that's in my series I'm making at the moment about the knives. There's so much amazing stuff about this, and to tell you the truth, and I always tell you the truth, I've been trained in the knives to a reasonable extent, but I must admit I'm learning so much by preparing for the videos and really focusing on the knives and thinking about the form and reading up what Sigong said, reading up what Sifu Jim's written. I'm learning a lot about the knives and how that training applies to the rest of our Wing Chun. So that's something to look forward to. My knives videos are going to get really good, you'll see. Okay, keep the incoming hand and send forward the outgoing hand. So that's meaning, like, you know, as he comes in, don't try to repel it, just absorb it and sort of, you know, squash it and stick to it and send forward the outgoing hand. So as soon as he draws back, you don't just sit there waiting for him to do something else. You're on him, you know. When he expands, I contract. When he contracts, I expand. And when I hit, I don't hit. It hits all by itself. Go to see my mate Bruce. Take the incoming straight thrust with a curve. Encounter the cross hand with a straight thrust forward. So here they're suggesting or advising that we should use a curving crush with a straight thrust, encounter the cross hand with a straight thrust. So there's a lot of that in the dummy, where we're sort of using sweeping, crushing, stamping, curving sort of shapes, the things that are in Chum Q and Bill G. We're putting that into practice in the dummy. Forwarding, obstruction, blocking and twisting, topping, stopping, sinking, thrusting, sticking, touching, ironing. You didn't think ironing was part of Wing Chun, did you? Swinging, swallowing. That's part of Wing Chun. And spitting. It's always good to spit. Swallow or spit, depends on what you want to do. And they contain stealing and slipping. So I'll just leave those. I think there's a lot in that particular sentence that we could look into. But I won't make this endless. Each point in the theory must be very clear. Each technique must be clear. The difference of a line is like heaven and earth. The slightest bit of slackness will bring defeat. Now, that's very good. You know, that's about being sharp, about being razor sharp, about being having a high standard. And I keep saying to my students and my friends who practice Wing Chun, write everything down, keep to the principles. I see people doing stuff in Chum Q and I go, your center? What's your center doing? All I see is arms playing there. Or I'll just touch them and say, move, go on. They forget the center. So you can't forget the center. Otherwise it's back to Silnim Dao school for you. If you can keep the principles in mind and you just this is how you practice. It's like scales or whatever. You just got to keep going over those things ad infinitum until they become normal. Till that sort of, the thinking becomes normal. And the difference of a line is like heaven and earth. So he's saying to have perfection, to have real power. There's this sort of thing, I've always struggled to say what it is, but it's a feeling of a line, almost like a razor blade or something. When you're using mind force, when you're sort of crushing great resistance and force, the feeling is sort of like a line. It's weird, but it's like a balance, like your brain's balancing on something very fine. So that's my idea about that. Commit all these to memory. unless you've got a computer and you can write them down or print them out. But yes, you commit it to memory. That's what we're doing in our training of the forms. One day, retrieve the mystery within. That's sort of a blessing. May you retrieve the mystery within. May you not spend umpteen years of your life and never really find what the answer is. And just a personal note, I think the main thing that stops us from finding the secret is ego. If you're a teacher, just beware being the big man and always having to be better than your students and that sort of thing. It can hold you back because you can get too scared of losing your status or something like that, and not trying hard enough, not being open to learn new things. That's the thing that holds you back. If you get status, it can be a double-edged sword, and sometimes status is not good. Same as ranks, you know, people get a black belt and they think they're bloody hot, and a lot of people have just stopped right there because they think they're big time. It's silly, but that's humans. All right, we're getting near the end now. Honesty and determination will generate greatness. There you go. Well, like I said, honesty, just being honest about the fact that you're not a great master, that you don't know everything, that there's probably lots still to learn. That's being honest. And determination. That means, I think somebody once told me that 99% of people who start Wing Chun drop out. So only 1% ever get there, which is a real bummer. But I've seen this in other arts, that people, it's the tortoise and the hare thing. Some people are just really good straight off, but they haven't got that determination. So next thing, they just drop off. They think they're pretty good and they get slack and they stop training, but they're kidding themselves. They always are kidding themselves. And it's the plodding, determined one that usually gets there. It's good to have some natural ability, but determination's the greatest thing. Like somebody once said to me, I was talking about art, but it could be Wing Chun. You could say that Wing Chun mastery is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, but it doesn't mean you have to sweat. Just sweat in your brain. Try hard. Clever methods will generate more clever shit. Clever methods will generate more clever methods. Unusual training exercises will generate more unusual training exercises. Now, when I first read that, I thought, are they bagging clever methods and unusual training exercises? They don't appear to be. So I think in the old song, when they were singing this around the wine gourd in the Jackie Chan restaurant, the Wing Chun boys were saying, hey, it's good to come up with creative ways to train yourself. You know, that yours truly, me, I come up with some pretty daffy ways to train with my Vovo biscuits and other stuff, old lady force and old lady walking and lots of old lady things, I think. But other stuff, but you know, you really don't have to be stodgy and stick in the mud and do it just the way your Sifu did it, because, you know, it's your Wing Chun. Make it creative. As long as you're sticking to Wing Chun and not fixing it. You see, I don't really like that. I don't like fixing Wing Chun. It's like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Here's a cool one. Wind and thunder generated within an inch. How can you not be humbled? That's very true. Wind and thunder generated within an inch. How can you not be humbled? And that's referring essentially to the whole thing of how amazing it is, this mind force and how Wing Chun stitched together. And you know, when you practice all the forms and you just keep going deeper and deeper into it, it's like, whoa, this is so smart. This is perfectly stitched together. Everything flows into everything else. The later forms flow back to Silnim Dao, then your Silnim Dao improves and it flows into your later forms, your Chi Sao. So, yeah, wind and thunder generated with an inch, how can you not be humbled? It's pretty far out when you feel it, a real 1-inch punch. I've talked about this, but it's a real thing. But when it strikes, when it's your subconscious that strikes, I've never seen anything like it before. It's almost like magic, but it's just real kung fu, as against show-off pretendy kung fu. For battery failure then. So here we go, the true words of the originator. So this is from Nung Mei. The true skill of Wing Chun is difficult to find. There are many levels. The true art will be found in the most unusual circumstances. You must be intelligent and diligent over the years. The unworthy practitioner will always be a lonesome boat in a big ocean. The art protects the art. Now, I find this fabulous. It's really encouraging for those of us who are not in the epicenter of the Wing Chun world. They're out on the fringes in the world. Maybe we don't even have a proper sifu. Maybe you just got some bearded old bald bloke talking to you from your phone or your TV. But the thing is, the true skill is difficult to find. There are many levels of the skills in Wing Chun. So as much as I talk about Wing Chun Mind Force, about Nimlik, I'm not saying that you can necessarily get the sort of level of a master like Sigong Chu Shong Tin, but you never know what you can achieve because it's a principle-based art. It's ideas that you apply to release an innate power that all humans have. So if you can understand the essential principles that I'm telling you and that your Sifu tells you and other people tell you, then you can achieve great things. And as I've also encouraged you to be above your Sifu, in that your Sifu's just a teacher and in the end you're the teacher. Listen to your Sifu, but also think for yourself and develop your own ways. So the true art will be found in the most unusual circumstances. Now, I think that this also is the same thing, that you just don't know who's going to get good at this. Sometimes I remember being amazed when I was told this tiny little lady in Hong Kong had the best force when Sigong set her up. This tiny little slight person, nobody could move her. So it's the art's like that. You know, it's the classic, don't judge a book by its cover. You don't know, somebody's not big and muscly and looks tough like a martial artist. Oh, well, they can't be a martial artist, but Wing Chun's the classic of that. You know, the best people I've known don't really look like martial artists. It takes real intelligence to be good at this art, and sensitivity and other life experience, I think, experience of the different parts of your mind and that sort of stuff. So you never know who'll get good at it. And if you want to be good, well, say to yourself, I want to be good. Set your mind on it. Don't take no for an answer. Don't go, oh, well, I could never be that good. That's just sort of a cop-out. Just go, yep, that's what I'm going to do. You must be intelligent and diligent over the years. The unworthy practitioner will always be a lonesome boat in a big ocean. And it's a bit of a downer for the unworthy practitioner, but I think it sort of means you can kid yourself with this art, but if you can't find mind force in the way of the mind and these things, you might as well just go and you might as well just go and do something else. If you just cannot get it and you really got to be a fighter, you know, you're probably better off. Stamp collecting's actually really interesting. Or learning Icelandic, that's a nerdy thing you can do. It's got little use, but it's sort of amusing. Anyway, the very last verse is so classic. The art protects the art. So what does that mean? it sort of indicates that the art's somehow conscious, and I think it is, because the art is our subconscious mind. Wing Chun's obviously come from a genius mind who's tapped into their subconscious, or tapped into that great creativity in the sky. It's so inspired, this art. It's really inspired. And in that way, the art protects the art. And I said to a teacher once, how do you stop teaching some kind of future Darth Vader? How do you stop teaching this to a baddie? And I've even questioned myself, should I be putting this on the internet? What if a real nasty person learns it? But this is only a matter of faith. But I really do believe that a person who is a nasty person hasn't got the patience and haven't got the self-reflection to do this, because if you've got the self-reflection, you'll look at yourself and you'll realize what's going on, and you'll get your act together. Anyway, the art protects the art. God bless you for listening to me right through all this, and check out the poem itself. Have a good think about it. But it's quite brilliant, and maybe one day you'll see me singing it in really bad Cantonese. That won't be so good, but I'm going to try and find out if I can get a version of somebody singing it anyway. It'd be interesting to hear where the song was used. I assume it was used on the Red Boat. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, see you later.